Splatoon has always been somewhat controversial ever since its genesis, even with its advertising. Especially with its advertising. No. But one controversial decision Nintendo made was particularly interesting. Unlike most console shooter games, Splatoon players have had the option to not only play using the joysticks, but also to use motion controls, to aim by moving the controller. As if Splatoon needed yet another way to differentiate itself, it also decided to alienate shooter players more by introducing a completely foreign aiming mechanic. It's not even like motion controls are easy to get used to. It was weird. Sure, some players have the option to turn off motion controls, but this is Nintendo. Of course they want their users to use motion controls, but on this brick? Maybe the Wii U wasn't the right console for this competitive shooter mechanic to start. Anyway, as the competitive scene developed, more and more players started using motion controls, whereas others stood firmly in their belief that motion controls are stupid, causing disputes about which is better, motions or sticks. This has become one of Splatoon's longest lasting controversies, but if you look at these totally legit statistics about the competitive community, we can see that an overwhelming majority of comp players use motion controls, and there's a pretty good reason for that. And now it's time for me to do my introduction and plug. I'm Randy, otherwise known as TGP Randy, and I've been playing Splatoon ever since the first game back in 2015, and I've more recently gotten into the low-level competitive scene. If you like this video, then I would highly appreciate giving the video a like, and if you'd like to see videos similar to this one, then good news! YouTube has just the feature for you. All you have to do is click that red button right beneath this video. I also have a Splatoon community Discord server, which is also linked in the description. We'd love to see you there. Back to the video time! So, as you might be able to infer, this video will be discussing why most competitive Splatoon players favor motion controls over stick controls. To many people, the very concept of motion controls in a console shooter game is complete whack. So what even is it? Motion controls are pretty much a Nintendo exclusive form of aiming in the realm of console games. They work by having a gyro sensor inside the controller, which allows the controller to know the orientation it is facing, thus allowing it to input motion on the screen. This has definitely not been the norm for the entirety of competitive shooters' existence, and has really only just become an option, though only actually utilized by Nintendo to its full extent. With the introduction of Splatoon, gyro-based motion controls entered the shooter world and has made its mark as a very controversial option. Despite this, it has since become the standard for competitive Splatoon play. Why is that? Well, there are two main reasons why motion controls are more competitively viable than sticks, and that is because of their speed and accuracy. Let us start by discussing the speed motion controls offer. The primary difference when it comes to speed between motions and stick controls is that motion controls are only limited by how fast you as an individual can move your arms and wrist, whereas stick controls are highly restricted by input sensitivity on the console's part. If you can remember back to your high school physics class that you definitely didn't sleep through, remember how the intensity of an action is, in part, the square of the radius from the origin, and since the radius from the joystick to any given side is so much smaller than the radius of the center of the controller to your elbow, especially if you're as long and slender as I am, motion controls have a statistically significant increase in max speed than sticks. To understand this completely, let us test the optimal aim speed of both motion and stick at max sensitivity in two different ways: flicking and 360. Playing on screen now is a comparison between the two flicking towards the same target. Here's what it looks like in slow motion. Now let us compare the two doing a 360-degree turn to get a real sense of how fast they both are. Once again, here's a comparison of the two different options doing a 360. And once again, here it is in slow motion. After seeing the speed of the two options, both at max sensitivity, we can clearly tell that motion controls have the edge. Motions are just so much faster. Not that there's really any practical reason to do a 360 in an actual game, since you might as well just be looking at the person. Motions are still faster. Some might try to argue that the speed difference is trivial, because these two speeds aren't that different, right? Wrong. Keep in mind, Splatoon is a very fast-paced game, so even being able to aim half a second faster is massively important, especially if you're playing a mechanically demanding weapon like chargers. This becomes increasingly important the higher up you go in the comp scene, as every part of the game gets more and more optimized. You're more likely to be a strong low-level player that uses stick controls than you are to be a top-level player who uses stick controls. Furthermore, when using stick controls, there's a greater give and take with speed and accuracy. The second biggest aspect that makes motion controls so much better is accuracy. There's just so much more variability when you use motions compared to using sticks that puts accuracy even more in your hands. Let's just take a look at the mechanics of both forms of aiming to demonstrate that fact. If we turn on stick controls, what can we do to aim? We can move our thumbs, and that's it. We can only move our thumbs in a very limited amount of space. The space between the ends of the joystick is the complete range of motion you have for your thumbs, and thumbs alone, to aim. To juxtapose that, look at what we can do to aim with motion controls. We can move our thumbs just like we can with stick controls, we can also move our wrist for fine and precise aiming, and we can even use our arms for larger, grosser movement. If we're being crazy, we can technically also move our entire bodies, but that's probably not very optimal. You're not held back by the hardware limitations of the joystick's range of motion. You're only limited by the sensitivity and your own ability to move your body. Extrapolating from that information, let's also quickly discuss the limitations that come when aiming with these mechanics. Stick controls have a very limited amount of precise movement as there's only so many thumb placements you can have between one side of the circumference to the other. Technically, yes, there is an infinite amount of spaces from one side to the other, but functionally speaking, there isn't. Functionally, with motion controls, however, there's a much wider range of accuracy that comes with having this much freedom. There's so many more positions for you to take to aim more precisely. With that being said, accuracy is not something most people are good at, so maybe some people should just stick to stick controls. But that's not all. There's another aspect that gives motion controls an advantage once we put these two concepts together and place them in an actual game. Like I said earlier, the balance between speed and aim is much less forgiving when using stick controls. If you're using low sensitivity stick controls, then you're going to overcorrect much less, at the cost of getting from point A to point B. Whereas if you're using high sensitivity stick controls, you're going to get from point A to point B a lot quicker at the cost of overcorrecting a lot more. While this is also true for motion controls, the sheer amount of control you have over both these variables allows us to correct for this by finding the best sensitivity that works for each individual person, so that give and take becomes much more negligible. It becomes clear, then, that motion controls are superior to stick controls. This is something that can be reasonably concluded and even falsified. If stick controls were better, we should expect to see more top-level players use them, but we don't. To argue that motion controls are inferior to stick controls is illogical. There's no true reason behind it, and most arguments made in favor of sticks are merely just biased or anecdotal at best, not concluded from thoughtful reason, data, or testing. With that being said, this video is in no way meant to tell you that you have to play motion controls. I'm not gonna go over and beat you up for using sticks. Do you use stick controls in Splatoon 3 for the Nintendo Switch?
I do.
That's it.
No!
This is just meant to examine and explain why motion controls are better for competitive play than sticks. If you enjoy playing Splatoon with stick controls, then by all means, play Splatoon with stick controls. Especially if motion controls give you motion sickness. There are valid reasons to use sticks, and comfort is one of them. Still though, I would encourage anyone wanting to improve at the game to at least try out motion controls, even just for a few games the next couple of times you play Splatoon. Anyway, thanks for watching this far into the video. Once again, if you liked this video, then please consider giving it a like. And if you'd like to see more content like this, then let me know in the comments and subscribe for more Splatoon videos. Have a good day!